Hello, everyone. It's freezing cold here, so I have a hat and scarf on. I hope the portfolio review went well for you. This video is just some last end of semester thoughts about what would be some useful stuff for you to know when you're going to graduate. And I kind of wish some people had told me this kind of thing when I was about to graduate. Just a couple of tips. It's not very long. Do with it what you will. So you probably know a bunch of this stuff already, but I just want to make sure that you do know it. And if it's boring, then but yeah, it's all useful stuff to know. It's a good idea for all students, all graduates, all people launching themselves into life, is to have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is some money that you just never touch. And every month you put a little bit into it. I'm not talking about a pension. I'm not talking about a savings account. I'm talking about an emergency fund. And the difference is it's for emergencies. Now, the pandemic was a huge emergency, and people were taken very much by surprise, and loads of people lost their jobs, kicked out of their apartments, couldn't pay their bills, all kinds of stuff. So emergency fund will tide you over those kind of situations until you can sort yourself out. This is particularly important for freelance people. Ideally, if you're a freelance, you get more than one employer. Ideally, you have 3 or 4 or 5 regular customers so that if somebody drops out, you have the other guys there. You also kind of constantly hustle for other gigs to come along because, jobs stop. They fire you, or just the project is over and you move on to something else. But it's important for anybody because you can get fired at any moment because the boss wants to hire their sister or they have to move to a smaller building and there's not enough room for you, or you're the last hired first fired, or there's a zillion stupid reasons for it. Everyone gets fired at some point. Don't take it personally. It's just one of those things in life. But you want to have a cushion. So when that happens, it's okay. I got 3 to 6 months worth of bills while I sort myself out and I get another gig. Credit score. If you don't know what a credit score is, it's this score that everyone has in America, which is a record of how good you are at paying your bills. Now, if you have a loan and you're paying it off and you pay it off every month, that actually helps your credit score because they have something to base it off of. So if you have a credit card, for instance, pay it off every month. Ideally, pay it off every month. Definitely make a payment every month, but ideally pay it off every month so that you're not getting into a bad situation, which many, many Americans get into. More than any other country in the world, Americans get into credit card debt because you see all these beautiful things, you buy them, and 6 months from now, you owe 40 grand, and that's not unusual. So pay off your credit card at the end of the month. If you don't have enough money, don't buy it. But in the meantime, you're building up a good record of paying off your bills, and that is on your credit score. And the reason that that's important is if you want to take out a loan, you want to buy a car, you need to get a car, they will check your credit score to see that you're somebody that can pay off that loan. That goes for if you're getting a mortgage for a house. It goes for if you're renting an apartment. They will check your credit score. And the bonkers thing is sometimes employers will check your credit score to see if you're somebody that is responsible. I think that's a little over the top, but I don't make these decisions. So keep in mind your credit score when you want to buy something and you're not sure you can pay off your bill. Make sure you do it. And that goes for paying your rent on time, paying your mortgage on time. If you've taken out a school loan, pay that on time. Yeah, it's just good business. When you are starting to look for a job, I've talked a lot about this in various videos this semester, which hopefully you've watched. If you haven't, or if you want to just revisit them, they will be up for a while. I usually every other semester I take them down because I do fresh ones each semester. But watch the ones about networking, about looking for jobs, about interviewing, and they will help you get yourself into the design industry. And I have a Facebook page called Ask a City Tech Grad. I've actually talked about this before, where I ask City Tech grads how they got their first jobs when they left school. And there's one with Will Lopez. You can just scroll down to look for that if you don't want to look through other ones. Will talks about how he worked for a while. He's worked at Starbucks for a while, and he became the manager before he finally got into the ad agency business, which was what he wanted. But it took him a minute, and that will happen sometimes. That's not a bad thing. That just means you're taking your time to get the right thing, and he wanted a very specific kind of job, and he got what he wanted. Watch the videos. They will help you get your first job. When you get your job, be a nice person. Say what you're going to do and then do it. Often employers will prefer somebody who's maybe less talented because they say what they're going to do and then they do it. You can have all kinds of great skills and be able to do amazing things. If you don't do what you say you're going to do, then you're kind of useless. It's about hitting the deadlines. Can you get this done by morning? Yes. Get it done by morning. It's very simple. But that counts for a lot in the professional world. And you'll get to know that when you're working with other designers and they don't do what they say they're going to do. It just drives you crazy. So yeah, be a reliable, responsible person. So AI, I know we had one experiment with it this semester, and I know some of you have been doing stuff in other classes with AI. It's important to get to know about AI. We are all figuring out AI at the same time. Professors, students, the professional class of designers, they are learning at the same time as you are. But with you coming in as fresh blood, you don't want them to feel like they have to teach you about it. You want to walk in that door and you know something about it. Now, you can't know everything about AI, but you want to get your head around it. You want to play around with it a bit and see what the possibilities are for the kind of job you want. So that, honestly, you'll probably be teaching them about it because they're busy people and they haven't learned. If you have some AI under your belt, that's a huge plus for going into a job. I mean, they keep talking about AI getting rid of jobs, and it's true, some jobs will disappear. Some new jobs will appear. But I think for the moment, what's really going to happen with AI is that it will jump through all kinds of hoops, set up all kinds of things, do a beautiful, booklet or a website or something, and then the designer has to go through and fix all the mistakes because AI makes a bunch of mistakes. So have that in your back pocket when you walk into that interview. When you get a job, if it's a good job and you want to be there for a while, you join their pension scheme. A pension scheme is where every month you put a chunk of money into the pension, like $50 or something. The employer puts money into the pension as well. So say you put in $50, they'll put in $15. It's free money. So it goes into your pension. It's very easy to not do this because you say $50. Oh my God, I just graduated from school. I have all these bills. If you start now in your early 20s doing a pension and just putting a little bit in every month, maybe more when you start making some more money, you will have a lot of money in your pension when you retire. Your future self will look back on you in your 20s and say, I was really smart back then. Me personally, Professor McCabe, I was not smart that way. I only started in about my mid-30s, and I only did a little bit. And I'm fine. I have a pension plus a little state pension. So I'm living in France. It's cheap to live. I'm fine. But the amount of money I have in my pension is sort of like $500,000. If I'd started in my 20, it would have been like $1.5 million. That's the kind of difference it will make to you when you retire. And when you retire, you don't want to have to work. You don't want to have to pay off your mortgage. You want all of that taken care of, and then you can just enjoy life. So they have a pension scheme at your job. Join it. And then there's asking for a raise. That's just one of those things that we have to do every once in a while. So you've been on the job for 6 to 9 months. You've gotten to know all your responsibilities. You're making a good impression on your boss and on your coworkers. And you're being paid the lowest possible wage for a new designer. And you're thinking, I'm about due to get a raise. So how do you approach this? You ask your boss if you can make an appointment to talk to him about something. And then you go in there and you make a case for yourself. You say all those things. I've made a good impression with my boss. I understand our processes. I've done this and that and the other in a timely and creative way. I get on with my coworkers. I get to work on time. You say all the things that you've done. And then you say, I would like to request a raise. Now, they might say, yeah, you're right. You deserve a raise. So they give you some kind of raise, and that's good. And usually, since you're a beginner, you're not going to start fighting over how much of a raise it's going to be. But getting a raise within the first 6 to 9 months, that's pretty good. Especially when young designers can be a little bit exploited because you're really eager to get into the industry and they start you off really well because you're so keen to get in. And then after 6 to 9 months, you realize how broke you are and you actually need that raise. So yeah, don't be put off by it, but don't be too heavy-handed about, no, that's not enough. I need more. So you take it and then you move along. Now, chances are they also will say, no, I'm sorry, we're over budget at the moment and we can't, we don't have capacity to give you a raise. Some nonsense verbiage. And you could say, oh, and then they say, oh, no, I can't. But then you say, okay, fair enough. I've made my case. I'll go back to my job and we'll take it from there. Now, you want to walk into that interview knowing that might happen. So it's not going to be a surprise if they say no. So you've already sort of rolled with the punch before you go in there. So you're not going to be hitting the stomach hard like, oh no, they didn't give me a raise. It's like they might give you a raise. It would be nice. They might not, but you're not going to be devastated. But when you walk away and they haven't given you a raise, you've also put this into their head. They're saying, Louisa is not entirely happy with their situation. She's actually is doing a good job. I'm going to think about this for a while. Because hiring people is a huge pain in the ass. You got to put out ads and postings, and you have to get resumes. You have to read through them. You have to interview everyone. You got to train them up, and blah, 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 blah. So you put it into their head. It's like, do I really want to go through that again? Because it sounds like Louisa is not entirely happy that she's being paid the lowest possible amount of money here. So they could come back to you next week and say, I've been thinking about it, and yeah, I'm going to give you a raise, or I'll give you a raise in a month, or, the next pay review is coming up in 6 weeks, so we'll look at it again there, or, they'll give you something. And that's good. And you take that. And if in 6 weeks go by and nothing happens, then you say, you remember that thing you told me about the 6 weeks? And he's, oh yeah, I forgot. So yeah, keep on top of it, but you don't want to be in their face all the time. But the other thing is they might just say no, and that's the way it goes. So then you might want to say to yourself, okay, I've got 6 to 9 months under my belt. Maybe it's time for me to start looking for something else somewhere else. And it's probably a good idea to get at least a year under your belt before you start seriously looking. I mean, you can keep an eye on stuff, but a year is a nice solid amount of experience. And then you just go somewhere else And you, when you go somewhere else, you say, this is what I want to be earning at this point. And then you're in a position to do that because you have the experience. The fastest way, it turns out, to make more money is to go from company to company. But you need to have that experience under your belt. You need to have the schooling, and you need to be acting like a professional. City Tech has a Facebook page, but I'm not sure people visit it anymore because nobody likes Facebook anymore. I know there were several Instagram accounts. You probably know more about that than me. They'll probably start something else new. Keep an eye out on any City Tech stuff. And the reason for that is City Tech grads will come back and speak at City Tech and talk about the industry and encourage you in various directions and give you advice. And sometimes they have jobs. Sometimes say, I'm looking for a presentation designer. Is there anyone coming out of City Tech who might be interested in this kind of thing? Or, there's an internship opening up over at XYZ agency. They can put you in touch with the people. They can look at your portfolio. It's a good idea, like I said at the beginning of the semester, for me and you to keep in touch, but for you and City Tech to be in touch. And when they have events and you're invited to them, go to them. Keep in touch with the professors. You can help them. They can help you. Socializing as a newly leaving university person. When you leave school, so you're not automatically pushed into a big group of young people with doing the same kind of thing that you are, the way you are in school. You're out in the world, you're meeting all kinds of different people. Kind of. In the design world these days, a lot of people just work from home all the time, especially after the pandemic. That just became much more of a thing. I mean, loads of people are going back to the offices, but in the design world, I know a lot of people that are still working from home. So here you are, you're from a New York neighborhood where you know everybody, but there's literally thousands of people coming to live in New York every day, every year. Especially in the design world, in the creative industries. People come to New York because there's so much cool stuff going on. So make an effort to be out there. And so how do you do that? How do you meet people in your industry? Well, you meet people on your job, hopefully. Even if you're working from home, you have to go into the office every once in a while. It's kind of uneasy, it's a bit weird, but you can. But also, once again, if you join a professional organization, like the One Club, the Art Directors Club, the Type Directors Club, AIGA. They're all listed on Brightspace. You can just Google design organizations in New York, and it'll come up. And you're still a student, and you can still join for student rates. You go to events and you meet people. It's a way to get jobs, but it's also just a way to meet people. This is just straight up networking. Okay, in the real life advice department, learn how to cook if you don't know how to cook already. Food will be cheaper, healthier, and more delicious. It's also a way to impress somebody on a date. But it's true, eating fresh food, not just takeout all the time, it's good for your soul, and it's good for you, literally good for your health. And then there's emotional health. You're young and energetic, and you can take advantage of all of that energy. Get out and go to plays and movies, read books, do sports, pick apples, play board games, experience life outside of your career. I didn't used to advise people to do that, but people are kind of more closed down these days, and I think that's partly because of the pandemic as well. So be out there, do stuff. And then things go badly every once in a while. You lose your job, you lose your partner, you lose your apartment, people you love die, friends and family. Don't be afraid of feeling terrible. And honestly, it's something that we all go through. It's just part of life. And honestly, you have to kind of go through the process. But it doesn't mean your life ends, and it doesn't mean that you'll never be happy again. You just need to get through that process and come out the other end fighting and stronger. when you start to make more money, you start to save more money. You can top up your emergency fund. You can top up your savings. You have to have these things. You take control of your finances, so you're not letting credit card bills take you over, or loans or car loans or whatever, or rent, whatever. You have the agency to control your life, to control your spending, and to have a good life. Because a creative life is a great life. It can be very stressful. It can be up and down and all over the place. But you want to make it work for you. Don't allow yourself to be pulled around by what everyone else expects from you. Have an idea of where you want to go, and then you go for it. And then finally, vote. Be somebody that votes in every possible election that you can find. We are in a privileged position on this planet to live in a democracy. A democracy says you can have a say over how things are organized, or how things are going to work. The government does all kinds of wonderful things. They build the roads. They teach people in schools. They have universities like City Tech. Sometimes they go to war, but you want to have a say in these things. If you don't know anything about the people involved, read it on the internet. It's really easy. But if you don't vote, then you don't have any say, and you might as well live in under a king who makes all the decisions for you. And you can look at the candidates for whatever you're voting for, and you can say there's no difference between these clowns. One is a total idiot, one's a total fool. But that's not quite true, because one of them is always going to be a little bit better than the other one. And look at it like a grown-up. It's like, what are they actually saying? Is this something that I support? Or is this something that I definitely don't support? You listen precisely to what they say, and then you vote, and you do your best. But honestly, democracy, much better than a dictatorship. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everybody. It's been lovely having you this semester. And good luck with your next steps. Keep in touch. Let me know if you get a job. Let me know how you're doing. I'm always happy to help. You know where I am.